Hello, I'm Ollie and this is CriminOlly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today I want to talk to you about Stephen King and tell you which of his books I would reread, which ones I would rewrite and which ones I would burn. Now, before anyone starts worrying, I'm definitely not condoning banning books. And if you don't know what reread, rewrite or burn is, it's kind of a booktube game where you have a list of books, you pick 3 books from that list and you say which one you would reread, which one you would rewrite and which one you would burn. And I thought I would do it with Stephen King books, given that I've read a lot of his books. I thought it would kind of, give a bit of a theme to the video. So I've got I've got a list of all of Stephen King's books. I've taken out the ones I haven't read, and that leaves me with, I think, 64 books, which does seem quite a lot to have read by one author. And I put them into one of those wheel of names type things online. So I'm going to spin that wheel for you 3 times and pick 3 books and tell you which one I would reread, which one I would rewrite, and which one I will burn, and then I'll do it again. I'll probably do 5 rounds. So without further ado, let's spin the wheel the first time. Okay, so it's going round, and the first book is From a Buick 8. Okay, so let's take that off the list. So we got From a Buick 8. Okay, spinning again. Cujo. Right, I think I know which one I'm going to reread out of these. So, From a Buick 8, Cujo and Night Shift. Right, so let's have a think. I've read From a Buick 8, but I cannot remember anything about it at all. I really, genuinely can't remember it, which makes me think it's not very good. And it's from the period of King's writing that I wasn't particularly gripped by what he wrote. So I think that will be my burn. I think reread would be Night Shift, because I haven't read that for ages, and rewrite would be Cujo, albeit I think Cujo is fantastic. I read it quite recently, which is why I'm not going to do a reread of it. So yeah, I reread it quite recently. I think it's a really excellent book, but I think it could be slimmed down a little. There's quite a lot of kind of extra stuff in there about the dad when he's away on business and stuff like that, which I think if you trimmed out would make for a taughter book. So I'm going to go with that one for rewrite. Okay, that was round 1. Let's spin the wheel again and see what we get for round 2. So first book up is Everything's Eventual, which is one of the short story collections. Next up, this is gripping viewing, isn't it? Next up is Eyes of the Dragon, his fantasy novel from the 80s. So Everything's Eventual, Eyes of the Dragon, and (11/22/63). Okay. I think I would reread 11/22/63, because I read it a few years ago and I really, really liked it a lot. And I think I'd be quite interested to reread it knowing what it's about. So it's one of those books that ends up being a slightly different book than you expected it to be, I think, or it certainly did for me. So I'd quite like to reread it on that basis. So that will be my reread. Eyes of the Dragon, I remember not particularly liking. So that will be my burn. And rewrite will be Everything's Eventual, because all of King's short story collections have a few duff stories in. So I think not even necessarily rewrite, just re-edit. Just take some of the less good stories out of that one. Okay, let's do a third round. So first up we have Dreamcatcher. I think that might be my burn. It'll be interesting to see if the Wheel of Fortune gives me a worse book than Dreamcatcher. Dreamcatcher was pretty bad from what I remember. Okay, next up, The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, which is like one of those weird those weird Stephen King books that just feels like it's about him indulging his passions rather than it being anything particularly interesting. So just like one of his baseball books, basically. So I think that, I think we'll see what comes up next, but I think that will be my rewrite. I'm not sure I'd want to reread it. Oh, If It Bleeds. Ah, this is tough because I didn't love If It Bleeds either. In that case, then, I'm going to go with Burn Dreamcatcher, definitely, without question. Reread The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, because I haven't read it for ages. And whilst it is just King indulging his nostalgic side, I do quite like that sometimes. And rewrite If It Bleeds, because I thought it was a very mixed bag. So if you don't know, it's a collection of 4 novellas, and they're definitely of mixed quality, should we say. There was one in there that was just really weird. I can't remember what it was called, but if you've read it, you'll know the one I mean. It's kind of like pseudo sci-fi, but it was very odd indeed. So yeah, let's remove that story, or at least rewrite it so it makes some kind of sense. Okay, 4th spin then, or 4th round. So book 1 is the Long Walk. So one of the Bachman books. Book 2. So I quite like The Long Walk. I remember thinking it was pretty decent when I read it, but I haven't read it since the Bachman books collection came out, which was a very long time ago. Okay, next up then, End of Watch, which I really liked. I like the Bill Hodges series of books a lot more than a lot of King fans do, I think. So we've got The Long Walk, End of Watch, and Cycle of the Werewolf. That's an interesting one. I haven't read that for years either. This is going to be tough. I like The Cycle of the Werewolf. The story's not great, but the Bernie Wrightson artwork in it is fantastic. The Long Walk, Cycle of the Werewolf, End of Watch. I think I would like to reread The Long Walk. I think I would probably rewrite End of Watch, because I think in that whole series there were some things that I thought were mishandled, particularly the black character whose name I forget, who was just appalling, just appallingly written. So definitely rewrite End of Watch, and that means we have to burn The Long Walk, which, given that he didn't even publish it under his own name originally, I think it's probably okay. Right, let's do the final round then. So first up we have Christine. Now, if you've watched any of my King videos before, you will know that Christine is the first Stephen King book I ever read, and clearly, given that I've now read 64 of his books, started a pretty much lifelong relationship with him as a writer. So Christine. Next up, another early one, The Shining. Okay, this is going to be difficult. So The Shining is my favourite Stephen King novel. Oh, crikey. Okay. This better not be another really good one. Okay, Wizard and Glass, the 4th Dark Tower book, is the 3rd one. Okay, so I think burn Wizard and Glass. I can't remember. I've definitely read Wizard and Glass, but I can't remember anything about it, which makes me think it wasn't brilliant. And generally speaking, I think the Dark Tower series is quite padded. I think you could definitely remove a whole volume from it without hurting it too much. So let's get rid of that one. And then I'm going to go with... Reread The Shining, because I really do think it's fantastic. And I'm going to go with Rewrite Christine, because whilst it's the first King book I read and therefore much beloved, I think it is a very long book. For what it is, it's very long. So could definitely do with a bit of trimming. So I hope you enjoyed that. I quite enjoyed doing it. I might even do it again with a different author at some point in the future. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your favourite King book in the comments. And as always, thank you very much for watching. I hope you're safe and well out there. I hope you're reading good stuff, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.